Thank you, Sharon. It's a pleasure to be here, and I always love talking about roses, about anything about roses. I grow about 400 and give or take 50 roses in my San Francisco garden, and I have been growing, like Sharon said, for a long time. The misconception about growing roses is that they are prima donnas and they need a very special care. Well, that's just poo-poo. It's not true. Roses are shrubs, so we should treat them as such. Mother Nature does pruning for us, so we don't really need to prune, which most people think that's really not the thing. But many years when I had so many other things to do, I never got to pruning my roses. Guess what? They survived, and they did well, and they bloomed. And if one didn't survive, well, so what? There are thousands of others that you can replant. So don't fret over it. Enjoy your roses. That's what they're there for. Okay? So pruning is part of it. If you don't do it, it's okay. But if you want to keep your bushes within its bounds, that's what we do. Okay, and I'm going to tell you how to do it, but it's not a science. I mean, you just do it. You can't do it wrong. You can't kill it by pruning it. Roses are survivors, so they'll survive even if you make a wrong cut. Oh God, it's not the worst in the world. So enjoy your roses and do what you can. I'm just going to give you some guidelines, and that's all it really is. But first of all, like with everything else, you have to have the right tools. Know what your roses are. Get your tools together. There are so many things. You don't need all of this. You just need one or two. You definitely need a holster where you can put your tools into again. There are so many different kinds of tools. If you have a small hand, get the smallest ones. Men usually like the bigger ones. I can't even reach this one, so this is not one of my favorites. Today I found out this is a very interesting one. If you can't do it with one hand, do it with two hands. Nice. Okay, so there are many, many different tools, and whatever you do, do not go amongst your roses without gloves. Even with gloves, you get scratched. So guess what? You need your tetanus shot. That is one thing that I always tell everybody. It won't hurt, but it will definitely protect you, because tetanus is in the soil and it's in the environment, and you don't want it. So protect yourself from it. Okay? So protect yourself anytime in the garden. If you don't wear glasses, get safety glasses and put those on, because when you bend down, there's invariably going to be a branch that will stick you in the eye, and you don't want that. Gloves, there are many different kinds of gloves. Many different kinds of gloves. This is a pair of gloves that thorns won't go through. They look kind of funny because I turned them inside out. These ridges were inside, they're seams, and I used to get blisters on them. Well, now the seams are smooth on the inside. I don't know why they don't do that automatically, but you have to be innovative. I like these. The thorns go through, so you have to be very careful how you touch it. But when you're pruning, invariably you're going to be touching the soil as well, and the soil is wet. If you use these, scratching in the soil, they're going to get so hard you'll have to buy a new pair. So these have rubber on the inside, and then you don't get wet hands. Just quickly, some of the tools that you'll need. You need to tie. This is just one of the ties that you can tie your branches with. I just hang this one right on here, so I always have it with me. On your tools, I carry a small sharpening stone with me, either this or this. This is a diamond file, diamond nail file. You can get that at your manicurist. And in between, when you're pruning, you want to sharpen it just a little bit, the same angle as it is already here. Just sharpen it a little bit, and that's all you need to do. And it's sharp again. You can stick that in with your holder. These are the same way, they're sharpening stones. There are many different things that you can use to sharpen, but I find this one the best because it's thin and small and you can always carry it with you. Large ones, you probably need larger ones for these great big thick canes that you'll get on the mountain. They come in different sizes. They're different sizes. My favorite, my reciprocating saw. It's right down here, sometimes those dead ones that you need to cut out. You don't have to use a regular saw and really manage it. This one will do it all for you. Definitely you need the instruction book. This is San Francisco's Growing Roses in San Francisco and Other Maritime Influenced Climates, which we are. We're right around the ocean everywhere we go. So it has a lot of information in here, but it doesn't have a whole lot of pictures in it. It does show you different diseases, but this is maritime. That's where we live, right around the ocean. So we do a little bit different pruning than they do back east because we don't get 4 seasons. Our roses really never get quite dormant. They're always pushing out. You can see already, this is January and they're already pushing out. So that's why we need to prune early. You can start pruning in December. December, January, February is usually when we recommend pruning roses if you are pruning. You want to have bypass pruning shears that go past like scissors. This is an anvil type that will crush both sides of the stem when you're pruning, and when you're crushing the stem, it leaves you open to diseases. So be very careful. You really don't need to sanitize or spray or sterilize or do anything in between. I do 3 or 4 bushes and sharpen in between, and I don't have the time to sterilize in between. Otherwise, I'd never get done. So, having said that, are there any questions? If there are not, I'm just going to get rid of some of this material here, and then we can start pruning. The best pruning time in our area is, like I said, December, January, February. And if you don't prune, all right. I have dozens of these. I put them right by the back door to my garden, and I never go out without grabbing. Always have a pair of gloves. Oh, this is what your pruning shears will look like. if you don't have a holster, and train yourself to put your shears back in every single time. If you put it down, you certainly are going to walk away and you'll never find it. When you do find it, this is what it looks like. So I saved it just to show you. Okay. Oh, this is a good pruning shear. When you're doing a lot of them, like I do, this is a Fiskar. This particular side rotates, so you don't get blisters when you're doing a lot of pruning. It rotates. Just one of the things that they have out on the market. All right, I wear glasses, so I don't usually put safety glasses on. All right, when you buy your roses, make sure that you save the name tags, because otherwise, how are you going to address them? Your roses love to hear their names. So if they're hybrid teas, if they're floribundas, if they're shrubs, if they're miniatures, you have to know, because they each get pruned just a little bit different. So the hybrid teas, you can prune down a little bit more. The shrubs, you don't want to prune too much, if at all. Floribundas, like this one here, still in bloom, and you still can prune it, because all those little flowers, you can take them indoors and enjoy. But we'll start with this one here, which is a hybrid tea. This is Oklahoma, a beautiful, dark, very, very fragrant hybrid tea. We usually want, these are the principles of pruning. We usually want the inside kind of open so that air can go through, so that the branches don't cross over. And we want to go down about maybe a quarter to a third. Hybrid teas, you can go down a third. Floribundas, you want to go a little bit less. We'll do a floribunda and we'll do just a little bit. But all of the dead wood has to come out. All the little spindly growth has to come out. Anything that goes towards the center has to come out. This is already starting to sprout out. So it gives you some idea of where to prune. And you can do that if you wait, like till now. The bushes are starting to push out, but all this new growth at the top that you're going to be pruning off took a lot of energy to push out. So try and prune as dormant a bush as you can. All right, so we'll take a look and see how tall it is, and we want to take down to about there. This is probably going to be a little bit lower, and this is going to be higher, but that's okay, depending on how strong the cane is. You want to go to a nice strong cane that is not diseased. And you want to usually go to an outside facing eye, unless the bush is planted next to a walkway. You want to not go to that outside facing eye, because it'll go right into the walkway and snag you. But you can go sideways. So you can look for one that goes sideways, or even going towards the middle if it's up high. So because there'll be lots of room to grow on the top. There are lots of dead ones right in here that need to come out. And we need to prune to a white center, which is, let's see, just take this off because this has to come off anyway. The center has to be nice and white. If it's brown, you need to go further down. Okay, sometimes you have to go pretty far down because it just doesn't, it's brown in between here. And sometimes you have to go all the way down here and cut it all the way down to. What happened here was they cut it and there was nothing to sprout out. So it died back. This is all dead down to here. But way down here, a new cane grew. This new cane grew out. So we're lucky that it didn't go all the way down and kill it. But we have to get rid of this one because it's going to go down even further. So when we get to it, we'll prune that down. There are little tiny ones that really aren't doing anything. Those all have to come out. If you notice, the higher up you go, the thinner the branches will be. So you have to go to a nice, strong one, and that means you have to come down further. That's why we come down, because if we don't prune at all, these are going to be pushing out. You can see right here, they're already pushing out here. But guess what? They're going to be so thin that the blooms are going to be heavy and they're bending over or even breaking off. So you're losing your blooms. So that's why we go down further to make it nice and strong. Okay? Any questions so far?
I heard that you could, kind of a rule is anything smaller than a pencil you can prune off. Is that a rule? Just
Yes,
when you're talking about those
yes.
little ones?
Yeah, those tiny little ones, they're not going to produce anything. They'll grow, but they're just sort of there. Because this is where all of the strength goes. This is just being bypassed. That's why it's not very strong. The strength of the bush first goes to the top. It's called apical dominance. Goes to the top, and then little by little, the next one, the next one, the next one will start breaking. When I say breaking, it means pushing out new growth. So that's how the plant grows. Because there's all of this sun up here. The bushes need the chemicals that are inside the soil. They use that to bring it up. That's why we need to make it liquid, because they can't eat solid food. So we water, and all that gets dissolved. The roots take it up, they push it all the way up. And with sunlight, it's amazing how they do that. They convert it into their food. And that's what they use to grow the new leaves. Their plants are incredible creatures. And I say creatures because they are alive. All right. So little ones, I don't know if I should go to the front, or can you see it? Okay. There is a tiny little one here that really doesn't do anything. We're going to be taking that out. Go as flush as you can. Get to it. The nice thing about planting in a pot is that you can turn it around. You don't have to go on your hands and knees and contort yourself. These are just tiny little things that I'm just taking off and cleaning up so that you can get to what you want to see. This is a stump that we had talked about. I'm going to take that off. Okay. And there is one that's really tiny, but look at all the nice strong ones. Nothing is going to go to there. That's really of any importance. So we're going to clean it up inside. This is one cane that goes on the inside. I'm not going to touch it right now because I don't even know whether there's going to be room here. So we'll do that later. Doesn't have to be right this minute. We're just going to get rid of all of the dead wood first. We prune at a 45-degree angle, which is about the same angle as the buds come out. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah. This is a good one here. Can you see this one? Okay. See that angle? This is the angle that we go. About 1/4 of an inch above is where we cut. And that's how the new cut should be. Okay? So when I'm doing this just out of habit because I've been doing it for so long. And I'm just cleaning up all this small stuff, all the small stuff in here. That's not really doing anything. So we want to get rid of that. That's what pruning is, just to get rid of all the small stuff so that the plant doesn't need to expand all that energy. There's a lot of room here. We're just going to go there. And just because you're pruning today and you think you're finished, tomorrow you're going to walk through your garden and you take a look and you say, why in the world did I leave that? And why did I cut here instead of there? It's not going to push. You can always go back and cut more. But remember, when you cut it off, you can't put it back. So if you're in doubt, leave it and then come back tomorrow and say, okay, I really should cut this off. This is a hybrid tea, so we can cut it a little bit stronger than we would. Okay. Than we would a floribunda. I cut this off, and there are lots and lots of new growth in here. I don't know if you can see it. There's little buds coming out already. And the next one will be right here. So, yeah. There. We could go there, but maybe tomorrow I'll come back and prune it there. So, but right now I'm just going to leave it. There's a lot of crossing branches right here. This I just did for. Yeah, we'll take that off. These are branching. Always see where the next bud, in what direction they're going. This one here has lots of room here, so we can take that off. There's lots of room here, and there's lots of room here. When this one starts activating, if there isn't enough room here, depending on whether we cut this one, then you can always rub it off and the next on the other side will activate. I'm going to have to recut this a little bit closer. There. I'm keeping my thought on about a third, maybe a quarter off, but we'll see when we get to it. Here is a lot of crossing. This is right smack in the middle, but I'm going to take it off. If I can get to it, right there. Okay. No, I'm not going to take that off. I'm going to take this one off.
It's already looking better, just the few cuts you've done.
Yes, just a few cuts. This one is damaged. Can you see the damage right there? Right in here. So we're going to take this off. See that damage? It's split. This one is not going to do anything. There's damage right in here. So we'll just cut all of this off. Get to it. And this is really not doing much. We'll cut that off as well. Oh boy, there's a nice strong cane right here. This one's already broken off, so may as well take it out. Yes. I always say when they stick you, they love you. This one has lots of room here to grow. And this one has lots of room to grow right there. Always know where, in what direction, general direction it's going to go. Okay, this is kind of thin here, and there's a stronger one on the outside, so we will take that off. it's looking better already, isn't it?
Mhm.
There.
Hey, Rose, can I ask a question while you're doing that?
Go ahead.
So we have one of our watchers is wondering if it is best to take off old leaves. I mean, obviously, as you're pruning, any leaves that are, you know, on those branches are going to come off anyway. But is there any truth to the myth that old leaves tend to carry disease?
Not a myth. It's not a myth. They do carry diseases. I'm a lazy gardener. Like I said, I have too many bushes to prune and I can't go around taking all the leaves off before I start pruning. But as you've noticed, all these leaves up here are going to be coming off. Nature took all these lower leaves off already. If there are lower leaves there, take them off as you go along. Don't just spend hours and hours trying to take leaves off that you're going to be taking off later anyway. So once we're all done pruning, if there are some leaves there, take them off. Yes, diseases that run in the air will stick around and they'll stay on the leaves. So do take them off as you go along. It's not a myth. Okay, there is room right here. You can take that off. Now, you can see the directions these are going. This one here is going in this direction. This one's going in this direction. By the time this one is going out, this one's going out already. So the further down you are, the longer it will take to activate. So the higher up you are, those are out of the way already by the time the lower ones are starting. Okay, there are. Going to leave this. Okay, when you cut flush like that, there are lots and lots of dormant buds right in here, and they will activate. Sometimes you see 2 and 3 and 4 that are growing right in here. Don't let them all grow. Keep the strongest one that will make a nice, strong cane. If you leave 4 of them, it's like a river. You know, the more tributaries you have, the thinner they are. But once you get to the main one, then it's a big one. So all these tributaries, but this is like in reverse. So if you have lots and lots of little ones here, then this is the strong one, but it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And you want to keep one strong one so that all the strength goes into that one. This is a little one we can take off. And we'll take this one off. And okay, there are 3 already right in here that are activating. Usually the center one is the strongest one. So we'll take this off. All you have to do is your fingernail and take that off in this one. And this is going to become a nice strong cane like that. Okay, that's all you need to do.
And Rose, this one still has spent blooms on it. Is it okay to leave them on the shrub and turn into hips, or do you want to prune it when they?
No, these are already dead.
Mm-hmm.
They're brown, they're dead. There is nothing there. See, they're already shriveled up. But if you have buds, if you're going to start, okay, there is one right here. This is not the time. If they haven't ripened by now, they're never going to. That means they haven't been fertilized. You can cut it off and open it up. And see if there are seeds inside. There is one seed inside, right there. See the seed right there?
That can you plant it?
One seed. You can plant that,
Ah.
but good luck if it germinates. And if it does, be patient because it can take anywhere from 1 to 3 years before it germinates, if it germinates. So it's much better just to let the hybridizers do all the hard work for you, pay a little bit more, and God knows it's worth it because this year you're going to get gorgeous blooms. With that, it's going to take you 10 years before you get anything. So buy a rose bush. And even the prices, even though they have gone up, still worth it. I mean, when you think about it, buying a dozen roses at the store, at the florist, which will probably cost you 40 something, 50 something dollars, you can get a whole rose bush for that. And every year you're going to get roses. All year long, you get roses instead of just one bunch of roses and that's that. Then you have to throw them away. So buy rose bushes. Okay, we are going to take this one off because this is nice and strong. So there's not going to be too much here. Remember, this is a hybrid tea. So it's going to need, okay. All right, here. This one is facing in the right direction, going out this way. So I'm going to take that off. Even if you make a mistake, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You took this off and you think, oh, I should have left that. Well, it's going to grow, don't worry. Look at that side. This is about the height that we want from here. So we have to do all of this zigzagging in here as well. This is really in the middle. It's not going to do much. We should, this is nice and strong. So oh, there's plenty of room here. We can let this go. There. This one will activate. There is one on this side that will activate. And this one will activate. There's plenty of room here because this is at the top. It's not going to grow this way. It's going to grow that way. So there'll be plenty of room. You can see this little growth in here. We left it. It's actively growing. There's lots of room here. This is not going to interfere because this will be up here by the time this gets to here. So there is room for it to grow instead of just cutting it right off as we thought. Now, this has to come off. And this, you can see already how it's girdling it. I'm going to have to really cut that. That's why I have 2 pruning shears. Just going to cut it off. Because it's girdling it already. So take off the name tags, but don't throw them away. There. Don't throw them away. Get some of these. Get the tall ones. Or some of these. Put the name of the rose on here and stick them in here. What I also do is, just to be sure, the name of the rose, I tie it on here, just to be sure. There. And then I write the name of the rose on here. This is Oklahoma hybrid tea, and when I bought it, what is it, 2/4 today, 23. And where I bought it, I take notes, gardening notes, because you will not remember next month what you did today. I guarantee it. So make notes that you pruned this bush today and how it's doing along the way. Like,
Is this a good time to ask you about, in your outline, you mentioned keeping a garden diary. Is that kind of along the line of what you're talking about?
what I write down is the weather. How was the weather? I make notes every week. That's why I can tell you what the weather was like this week last year, this week the year before, and so on. The weather is different all the time. So roses grow different. They adapt to the weather. This one grows in the middle of it, and I don't like it. There. And there is one here that looks nice outside. There. And two here. Oh, that's fine. You can let this one go and that one go. And this one here, there is one that goes this way. Or this, let's grow this one here.
I wish we could show a side by side before and after, because this is really incredible how it looks.
There.
Yeah.
This is all done until tomorrow when I walk through my garden and say, oh my God, why did I do that? Or next month when it's starting to grow out, this is, I don't like this one, I better take that off. Like something like this here. It's growing to the middle. If there's something interfering in here with that, you can always go like that and take it off, then the next one will come. And if that interferes, you can get rid of that and the next one will go. And these will already go. So just rub them off and the next one will activate and they won't interfere. You can manage your bush exactly the way you want it. There. Okay. So we left this one here because there is room in here for it to grow. If it doesn't get any stronger or it doesn't produce anything, you can always take it off. Remember, once you take it off, you can't put it back. Okay. Now, I have to tell you that this is not the same bush as your roots. This was budded. This is called a bud union, that little knob where these strong ones come out. They grew this one. It's probably Dr. Huey. It's a beautiful dark red rose, an old rose, very, very vigorous. If you put that in your garden, it's going to take over your garden. That's why they budded it on there. They took one of those little buds, inserted it in here, and that's what this one is. They inserted it right on this side here, and then they let it grow. Once it started growing, then they cut that one off. That is part of the root system. So if we have anything that grows from underneath here, anywhere, that means it's part of the root system. Now you don't want that, but remember I said it's going to take over your garden. So you want to go in, dig in there. It's okay, because if you're going to injure some of these roots, dig all the way down, see where it's coming from, and gouge it out. You don't want to prune it out, because guess what we did up here? We pruned it so it got stronger. That happens the same way because it's a rose bush. We cut it off, it gets stronger. So we gouge it out, we injure it. It's coming from the roots, and then it won't grow back. Okay, we clean it up a little bit so the sun can get on here. Sometimes it gets very crusty. Just be careful that you're not taking off any of the new growth. Anything that comes from in here, all around in here, it's okay. That's the same as the bush. And that is your new bush. That's how it rejuvenates itself. Okay, so look at all the stuff that we took off, and how spindly that stuff is. And it's going to be nice and strong again once it's planted. This can stay in here for probably till September, and then we can need to repot it. Okay,
It looks great.
this is a hybrid tea. Let's do a climbing rose. We have time for a climbing rose. That's always the question that people don't know what to do with. It took me probably about 5 or 6 years before I found out what to do. Let's do it in the front, because then I can't get to the top here. Remember, in front here, the same principles apply. You need to keep it clean, get all the little spindly stuff out, but we're not going to cut it down like we did, like this one here, because we want these nice, long, strong canes. That's where you get your new growth. This is Climbing America. Yes. Gorgeous, gorgeous rose. It's sort of a pinkish, mauvish, very, very, very fragrant. Okay, this is going straight up. On climbing roses, these canes have to go a little sideways. There. If we move them sideways, all these new buds will start growing roses. So I don't know if you can see that right here. These will be new roses. This used to be a rose. So we'll just cut that off. Even though this is facing down, once it's like this, it comes around and it goes straight up. It always goes to the top. Even this one here, once it starts activating, it's going to go to the top. So we're going to take these off. This is kind of thin right there, so we'll take it off. And there are lots of buds in here, lots of buds. But what we don't want is we don't want to cut this short. We want to let this keep growing. Unless there is no room here, then we can cut it here. But let's not cut it down to here because we're losing all of these blooms. And this goes for every one of these long canes. We can cut this off because it's not going to produce anything. So when we cut it off, and we're going to let this grow because we want this longer. So we're going to leave it there. And we do this with every one of these canes. When they have new growth, really tangled up. Okay. When they have new growth already, that's nice and strong, we don't want to cut all of this off. We want some of this to grow, like already here. This is going to be growing again. This is growing again. And this is a side growth. If we want this to go longer, we can let it grow. We can just cut that dead one if I can get to it. Okay. All right. If we want this to go longer, we have to let one of these branches keep growing, and it will grow. And all along in here, this is going to start growing. This is already kind of questionable. So we'll take this off. And like I said, it needs to be white inside. This is growing nice and strong. I'm going to take a chance on this. Sometimes it just calluses over and that's fine. Now here we want some of this to grow. This is kind of done already. We'll let 2 or 3 go. This is doing fine. You can cut it flush if you want. That means flush like this and new growth will come out. I'm just cutting it a little here. No, that's kind of thin. That's already dying back. And we'll let this one grow. And again, we'll let this one grow to make it longer. So that's how we're cutting pruners, how we're cutting climbers.
It's different because you're leaving those, the
You're
little
leaving-
ones on.
Yes, we're leaving the long ones and we're
Mhm.
leaving smaller ones here. This one has already done its thing, so this can grow. There is nothing happening here, so we can grow that one here. These are already dead. We need to take those off. Like I said, all the dead ones come off. Now, if we don't have the room for it to keep growing, we can cut it. There, and then it'll start blooming right in here. So we don't have room here. We have room here, we'll let it grow. We have room here, we let it grow. We let this grow, but it has to be at an angle. If it's straight up, guess what's starting to bloom? Up here, you're not getting anything down here. Even though you're getting sprouts in here, but you're only going to get branches. So you want blooms, and when you want blooms, you have to go sideways.
And you can train it with the,
You can train it, you have to tie it down. Now, climbing roses are not true climbers, not like ivy where they attach themselves. You have to tie it. Okay, usually, usually against a trellis. And so if we train that, it doesn't have to be completely at an angle. It can go slightly at it, just like this. Just like this. And we're tying that against it. You can also go around like this. And all of this is at an angle. You can see that it's slightly at an angle because this all has to come off. And you'll get blooms there. All this will start blooming. This is kind of small. We'll take that off. We'll take that off. Since we have this sort of against the wall, or we don't want them to be growing way back there. So again, we'll cut it shorter. All this will be blooming here. All this will be blooming here. This is kind of thin. We don't want this to be growing too far. There we go. That way. This one, if we want this to go this way, we cut it here. We can let this grow a little bit and wrap it around some more, get it to the top. And we'll do this with each one of these long canes. We're just sort of spreading them and then tie them down. Is that
Hey, Rose, we're getting close to 11. There's a couple things I wanted to ask you about. You kind of mentioned nutrition and making sure that the roses are getting the proper amount of food through the soil. Will you talk a little bit about fertilizing and what to look for, if you have any specific recommendations that people can use just for normal fertilizing? And then also, when things are stressed or suffering in one sort of way, what are some things that they can look for to use to help?
okay? Right now, we don't have any leaves. Like I said earlier, the plant manufactures its own food. We're just helping it along to give it the chemicals that it needs. If we use artificial, like Miracle Grow or something like that, those are chemicals. They're strictly chemicals. There's nothing organic about it. But if we feed them organics now, organics need time to break down. The bacteria in the soil break it down into its components. And by then, the plant will have used its strength that's in these, it pushed all of the strength and all of the food back into the canes. So that's why we're getting all of these new growths. But that's not going to last very long. So that's when we need new food. And we put organics in the soil now and wait with the chemicals until later, until there are really leaves in there or on the plant. We can use fish emulsion, guano, alfalfa meal, anything like that, that is organic, that once was living. That's what organics are. And we can put that in the ground, let the bacteria do its thing, and then it's ready when the plant needs it. When we're planting in the soil or into a pot, they have these wonderful little granules. They absorb more water. I don't know how much water they absorb, but it's like 25 or 30 times its weight in water. If you put that in and you water your plants, this is what holds the water, especially here where California is in a drought. Always, even with all the water that we're getting now, it's not going to last. We're going to be in a drought at some time again. So we need to conserve water. When we use these chemicals or these little granules will hold on to the water. If they expand, I did this one time before I really knew it, I put all kinds in the pot and watered it and get when it all came out. So a little goes a long ways. So when you put that in, put it in the soil. Some of the planting mixes have it in it already. So be sure you read on the label what it says. If it has it in it already, I don't recommend adding more because it's just the amount that they need. So this is just something, if you haven't used it, make a hole and put a little bit in, put about 2 or 3 around the outside, just a little bit, so that that plant has also that extra water that it needs. And it holds quite a bit of water and it holds on to it. Any other questions? This is just something, aphids, I'm sure, will be a plague, but no aphid has ever killed a rose bush. So you can either spray it for it, you can use a strong stream of water to get rid of them. Well, you're never going to get rid of all of them because they're born pregnant. So they're always going to be there. You can squish them, get your frustrations out. Really easily squeeze them. But they're not going to kill your rose bush. It's just unsightly. So, it's mostly for us. But, remember, nature has a cycle. Everything is there for a reason. If you have aphids, you're going to have birds feeding on them. And in the spring, they need all that nutrition for their babies. So don't get rid of all of them, get rid of some of them when they really bother you. So just remember that everything has a reason. We tend to make everything too sanitary. Be a little bit more tolerant of unsightliness. If you see a natural garden with perennials and nature plants that are for that particular region. It's not a pretty sight, but it nurtures a lot of different animals and insects, and everything is there for a reason. It's just us, we want everything so in line. So just be a little bit more tolerant, and maybe you'll attract more butterflies, more birds. Don't get rid of your spiders because they kill a lot of insects, bad insects. All these animals, these little insects are good. There is more good than there is bad. So Does that make sense?
Absolutely, absolutely. I have a couple more questions just as you're kind of going through these last tips. And one of them is there's always a few things that you know, we've heard you can add to your soil, things like, you know, crushed up egg shells, coffee, etc. Are there things like that that you would or would not recommend specifically for roses?
Yes. When you use your eggshells, let them dry, crush them up, put them into the soil. It put calcium into the soil, which the plants always use. Coffee grounds is fine. It aerates your soil. It really, it doesn't get your plants addicted to caffeine, but it'll aerate the soil, and it's fine. If you feed your soil, you're feeding your roses.
Absolutely. And then are there any rose varieties that do well in more of a like a shadier area? I know that we always promote most roses as, you know, sun lovers. Are there some that do better in a less sunny area?
When you have 75 and 100 rose petals in a rose, and you have average of 55 to 65 degrees, you're never going to open them. The less petals you have in the cooler weather, the more you're going to be opening them. Singles are wonderful. They'll grow almost anywhere. Some singles go pretty well in the shade, like Sally Homes. Sally Homes will grow anywhere.
Or anywhere.
Yeah, almost in total darkness, I would say. Well, no, maybe not. It needs some sun. But some roses will just do well. Any kind of single rose you can grow anywhere. The higher the petal count, the more sun, the more heat you need to open.
Okay.
In our maritime area, we have a lot of moisture in the soil constantly. Even when it's dry, we have moisture because of the winds that bring the moisture, the evaporation from the ocean. So there's always moisture in the air. Some petals are so thin that they will always stick together. They need just a lot of heat. They'll do well in the desert. That's why when you're in doubt, call the San Francisco Rose Society, go online. Consulting rosarians are more than happy to help you, to recommend. They're growing roses. They see a lot of roses from different people. And we have to study these roses. We hear people, how did it grow? How did that grow? Oh, that didn't do too well because I live in this area. So we know what roses do well in certain climates. That's why we ask you questions. When you say, can I grow this rose? Where do you live? What climate? What kind of garden do you have? How much time do you want to spend in your garden? All this has an influence of what type of rose you want to grow.
That's great advice, no matter what you're planting. You know, those are really good questions. That's something for us to always keep in mind. You know, what is your time commitment? How involved do you really want to get?
You should see your roses every day. They love to see you.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think so. You did a climber and you did, was it a hybrid? I had a gentleman that was asking about whether there's floribundas. If there's a difference, like as you're pruning roses, obviously there's the normal differences between climbers or carpets or, you know, the shrub bush style, depending on whether it is a hybrid or a tea or a floribunda. Are there different styles of pruning?
Yes. This is a floribunda right here. I wouldn't prune it as harsh as a hybrid tea. We'll leave a lot more and a lot of thinner stems. If you can see, even the strongest stems are not as strong as the ones that we leave here. So floribundas grow a little different. Remember the name flora, lots of flowers, bunda, in abundance. So we want lots of flowers, and they'll grow on thinner stems. And they're not as heavy, they're smaller blooms. So they don't need as strong of a stem. And you know, you want to see them. So when you cut back, you want to cut a little bit less than you do on the hybrid tea. we don't have time, we're out of time, right?
We've probably got about 5 minutes or so if you,
Oh, I can do 2 stems or 3 stems,
Yeah.
right?
that's perfect.
Okay, all right. This is, again, the same thing applies. You need to cut dead wood out, stuff that goes to the center. But there was a bloom here. This is going to grow out. This is sort of right in the middle here. We're going to come down to about here. All right.
This is a burgundy iceberg,
This
by
is
the way.
burgundy iceberg. It's a beautiful rose.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yes.
It blooms for a long time.
Okay, so it's not as far down as the others. This is a very strong cane right here. So we're going to take this little one out, this little one out. It already bloomed and it's really not going to do anything here. So we take this out and we're going to leave that. Oh, nice. I can recommend this in this area, it grows well. Just because it's blooming doesn't mean you can't prune it. All right, this really doesn't do much on that side. And this is already coming up. So we're going to take off. Don't pull them off, cut them off. Okay. So you can see this is really not doing anything. See, I'm leaving a lot more wood and smaller growth. Can you see that?
Mhm.
And again, all the unproductive stuff has to come out, just the same as we would with the hybrid teas. Once they're spent, they're done. We leave a little bit more wood.
Are you still looking for the crossing branch, the
Yeah.
air circulation? Mhm.
Yes, we'll leave this kind of open in the middle. The higher up you are, the more room it has to grow. So even if it faces to the middle, it'll still grow up rather than into the middle.
Is there anything specific or different as it pertains to like David Austin roses? We have so many people that are fans.
Austin roses or shrub roses, you
Okay,
don't prune them too hard, just keep them in bounds. They're like Floribunda roses.
okay.
Need to prune them too hard. Some of them are very lax, they fall. So you can stake them and let them grow like Floribundas. Or you can do like climbing roses, like Sally Holmes is not a climbing rose, it's a Floribunda.
Mhm.
It wants to be a climbing rose because it grows these long canes. So let's not force it into something that it isn't.
Yeah.
So if it wants to be a climbing rose, so what? Let it be a climbing rose.
Absolutely. I would like to be a climbing rose. That rose is stunning. It's stunning.
It grows anywhere.
Ugh.
And it's a fabulous rose.
That color, I saw it in the background as you were working on the other. And Jen, when you were moving the camera, I was like, good grief, that is amazing. I would not have thought it an iceberg, but makes sense.
Yeah, this is a sport of iceberg.
Yeah, I have it in my garden too, and I was telling, we were talking about it. I think it blooms for
Yeah.
6 or 7 months.
It loves the bloom, especially in the warmer climate over here.
Mhm.
It's a fabulous rose in Marin. A lot of people grow it here. The more sun you get, the deeper the color gets.
Oh, is that right? That's good to know.
I don't get the deep color like this. I get a lighter color with the white on the outside. But this gets
Icebergs in general seem to do so well in the Bay Area. So that's good to know.
Iceberg as a bush does
Yeah.
not do me. I have it as a tree rose. Now that's double budded. That
Okay.
means there's a new growth in the soil. And the stem is a different one, and then the roses are budded on the top. I have two different colors on it. I have burgundy iceberg and I have iceberg, and they're on the same bush.
Wow.
So they do that now. Sometimes they have three different ones on there. So it's really nice to see.
Yeah. This has been great, Rose. We really appreciate it. I would like to point out that this time and the last time we did the rose pruning class that I was involved in, both times Rose has had on denim. And I don't know whether that's just weather or fashion, but I'll tell you what, wearing denim or something like that to kind of help protect you while you're pruning roses is just genius. No matter what, it's hard to really get in there, you know, and just have on gloves to protect your hands and your lower arms. So often you she's been moving around and moving branches, and if she had on short sleeves or something thinner, without question, she would get scratched there. So that's awesome.
Remember, you are much more important than any plant in your garden. So you want to protect yourself, and if you really get infected from something, it's murder. That's why I say get your tetanus shot. At least it'll protect you from that. But wear long sleeves, wear gloves. So, and invariably, even with that, you're going to get scratched and you're going to bleed.
Yeah.
Have some blades close by and wash out that scratch, because you never know what's in it.
For sure. That's great advice. Rose, thank you so much. This has been just a wealth of information. I realize that I have your email address from last time. Is it still okay to give it out?
Yes. If people have questions, I had a ton of questions last
Did
year.
you? Oh.
Yes. And I tried answering all of them. Yes. If anybody has questions, absolutely.
Definitely. So you can reach Rose at perfectrose1. So PERFECTROSE, the number 1 at sbcglobal.net. That's still correct, Rose?
Correct.
Perfect. So please, I mean, you can always email us at slow, but I mean, clearly Rose Gilardi is the expert, and she's more than happy to take specific questions and help direct you, give you some advice on how to move forward and how to do better with your roses, and, you know, pruning tips and everything. So please definitely take advantage of that. It's been great hanging out with you guys this morning, and we really appreciate all of the information, Rose. Lots of roses available in all of the Sloat stores, lots of dormant roses. We do not do bare root anymore, but we do offer so many different varieties of dormant roses. So get on down to your local store and ask some questions and grab some and give them a try. They're so beautiful. And Rose is correct in that they're pretty tough. They do well, you know, in our area, and they're not super difficult to grow. They do bounce back really well. You won't be disappointed if you have the right place for them and ask the questions ahead of time, so you can, you know, get something that works best for your area. Again, been great hanging out with you guys this morning. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you again, Rose. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for videoing, and you guys take care. Check us out on the website. After Tuesday, this presentation will be posted, and you can check it out then. And like I said, pause, fast forward, rewind, all of those things. Really looking forward to seeing you guys next time. Have a great week. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.